Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We have had 2 weeks off while we were at the Myself Reliant Summit, and now we're back with our Tuesday night calls, our Kawinda Community Connections, and the Kawinda means happy place. So welcome back to our happy place. I'm Kelly Wilkins, your host, and tonight we have a special guest. We're very excited to welcome Dr. William Bay. Welcome, Dr. Bay, or William, or how do you like to be called?
Yeah, hi, Kelly. I like to be called anything that's legal, and we'll be talking a lot about that this evening.
Perfect. Lovely. So before we jump into our conversation tonight, I will just let you know a few little announcements that even though the summit is now finished, if you can still pick up, we're offering discounted tickets to the summit. So till the 31st of August, you can go to the website myselfreliance.com.au and you can pick up a summit ticket for as little as $25. That's because no longer do you have the opportunity to view them live, but you can get that discount and watch the recordings forever and a day. You have them, but if you watch them within the next couple of weeks, you'll still get to be able to vote on our People's Choice Awards. And so we have the 4 categories in the People's Choice Awards. We have most inspiring speaker, we have best presentation, we have topic that you want to hear about more, and the speaker that you want to hear more from. And the winner of that will get cash prizes, and they'll also get to appear in our festival in October. So we look forward to hearing from you what you love hearing most. And with that, about the festival in October, it's the 20th to the 22nd of October at Wiseman's Ferry. It is a camping opportunity, or you can cabin it. Details will come out about that on Friday. And so you want to get a group together. Oh, welcome, Lisa. I'm just going to on mute there. That's okay. So what you want to do is you want to get a group together, because it's actually going to be cheaper to come in a group if you want to get a cabin of like 6 to 8. And it's basically a wooden tent. There's no ensuite. But you can get a cabin for cheaper than you can actually camp. So camping is available. So there's be more about the details of that on the website as we go. Okay. So I'm going to now introduce to you William, or Dr. Bay, as many of you know. It was about a year ago, and we were wrapping up last year's summit, and we're getting ready to share all about the how to put together a 72-hour kit. And I remember I was getting ready for that day, and up pops on my Telegram this news feed coming through about this Dr. Bay who's entered APHRA and told all the doctors in APHRA exactly that they're doing the wrong thing, and that the vaccines were damaging and a hoax, and everyone cheered. And so we are so thrilled a year on to have Dr. Bay with us. I'm sure there's been so many things that has happened over the last year, and William's going to talk to us about his journey, and also going through the court system and representing himself in court, and being able to share with us some tips and tricks on that. So let's rewind a little bit, and let's share, if you would, what were you doing before, let's say before COVID? Where were you at, Doctor?
Before the COVID scamdemic, I was working in an emergency department, and also as a after hours home visiting doctor. I finished medical school in 2015, and so I was a graduate entry student to medicine. I'd previously been working as a clinical services coordinator for the Division of Cancer Services across southern Queensland. It's from the Princess Alexandra Hospital previously. I'd also done work as an editor to the Korean government and visiting professor of English in Korea, as well as in South Korea for 5 years, where I met my wife and I have 2 children. And previous to that, I'd been involved in different things, door-to-door sales, running superannuation at Q Super, which is now Australian Retirement Trust. Also dabbled in a bit of meditation, living like a monk for a while. So yeah, quite a varied background, but nothing has been more exciting and meaningful than this fight for freedom in Australia, where we are facing the loss of so many of our human rights. And so I think it's absolutely essential that we all stand up and fight safely, peacefully, and intelligently. And in my opinion, the way to do that is primarily through the courts. And that's what I'd like to talk about a bit about this evening.
Yeah, fantastic. So thank you for having the courage to stand up and fight. And a lot of us want to fight the good fight and you know, don't know where to start and haven't got the background. But so what then, I guess having all that varied background as well gives you that courage, right? Being being a door-to-door salesman, that gives you that strength and to talk to people and being a monk. So I really like
yes, yeah, certainly my background has been instrumental in enabling me to self-represent and to fight this fight against APHRA and the medical board in the state of Queensland. But I believe that all my strengths were given to me by God, and God has been with me on this journey for freedom right from the start. And so my first piece of advice to anybody considering self-representing is, yeah, make peace with God first, because you're going to need him or her.
Yeah, that's good advice. So tell us, when did you first start to represent yourself? What was that journey?
Okay, yeah. So when I was suspended, which was the 17th of August last year, so it's almost been 1 year now, and we are having a 1-year protest around the country on the 16th of August regarding that, actually, outside every APHRA office. So after I was suspended, I took the step of suing APHRA and the medical board and the state of Queensland in the Supreme Court. I did that as a self-represented person because the one piece of advice that I received from all my colleagues, all of my fellow doctors, was that if you're going to win in this matter against APHRA, the first thing you need to do is fire your lawyers. So that's what I did. Every doctor actually has a lawyer. We all pay insurance for our medical defense organization. So on my first meeting with them, I just said to them, you're fired. And that was, I think, the beginning of my victory in the courts that I've received, and will hopefully get more victories going forward. It was taking that step to, yeah, fight according to what I want rather than to what a lawyer wants. Before I talk more about self-representation, I want to say that, yeah, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. If you are in a legal matter, please seek your own legal advice. I'm just here to relate my experiences regarding self-representing, which I believe has been fantastic and very successful, and has actually culminated in the historic precedent of myself being allowed to appeal a decision of the full bench of the High Court on the 4th of July this year. So that's an Australian first, and that was achieved by myself with the help of God, without any lawyers or barristers. And it is something that hasn't been done before. And it just shows, in my opinion, that anybody can self-represent in the courts. And when you do self-represent, you have full control over your matters, which means it's a high risk, but also a high reward situation where you can progress the matters that you see fit fully, Kelly.
So tell us about what that first looks like, because that's a very first big jump.
Yeah, so to sue organizations or people in court for a civil matter that is not a criminal matter, What that entails is basically writing up a document, paying a fee, and handing it in to the Brisbane Registry in George Street, Brisbane, in the Supreme Court. So in the Supreme Court of Queensland, you can do what's called judicial reviews, which is questioning the law, the validity of the law, that decisions against you by different government departments have been made against you. And to complete that document, what you need to do is go to the Queensland Court's website, download the documents, and then basically fill out that template. So all the information is actually available there on the Queensland Supreme Court website. And if you're around Australia, there probably would be other websites in the different court systems where you can download the forms. I'm speaking primarily from a Queensland point of view this evening. And just in Queensland and other places, there are people in the courts to help you with self-representation, because you are allowed to self-represent. In fact, the first courts back in the early English days and around I think the 10th or 11th centuries, the English feudal courts, everybody was in fact self-represented. So barristers and solicitors are more of something that came after the first courts were introduced in England. And so nobody should feel bad or wrong, in my opinion, for self-representing, but they do need to be educated. And to get educated, you need to read textbooks, you need to watch YouTube videos, you need to listen to things like this, and you, most importantly, need to read the law that which you have an issue about. One of the things that I think has worked in my favor in my fight against APHRA and the medical board is that even they don't seem to read or know the law, Kelly. The laws these days are very, very long, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages. And you've got to think, these lawyers and barristers, they're dealing with dozens of cases at a time. So whilst you may not have the experience or perhaps the speaking skill of a barrister or solicitor, you have something that they don't have, which is probably time and also a desire, a commitment to get things right. So you can leverage that interest and knowledge in your own matter to your advantage and turn that potentially into a win in court, just like I have. The victories I've had in my Supreme Court matter is that I was able to get the matter moved from the Supreme Court to the High Court of Australia, the High Court being the highest court in this country. And I was able to successfully avoid having my matter dealt with in the Tribunal of Queensland, QCAT, which is great because they're not actually a court. They just make decisions without proper rules. They don't really follow the law, the rules of evidence. They don't even need to have judges. So I found that avoiding QCAT was another important step in my victory to fighting against the persecution of myself and the other doctors who have been prosecuted for speaking our minds, basically. That's what people need to understand is I've been suspended for 1 year, not because of any patient complaints, but because APHRA, the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency, found me guilty without a proper trial of 45 reasons of criticising the COVID vaccines, criticising the government, and criticising the immunisation program. That's why I'm suspended to this day. They allege that I'm a serious threat to the safety of Australia, even to this day, and I'm suing them in the High Court to overturn the law that their power is based upon and to destroy APHRA as an illegal organisation.
So you believe there's a difference between what you're doing and the common law way of approaching courts?
Yes.
About that?
Yeah, so there seems to be three ways that you can fight a legal matter. One is to engage a solicitor or a barrister, one is to self-represent, and another is to adopt the common law approach. I've had a look into that common law approach, which is to challenge the entire validity of Australia's legal and political system. The common law approach usually entails not respecting the authority of the magistrate or the judge, or declaring that Australia's current constitution is invalid, or declaring that the Governor-General hasn't signed things correctly, or indeed even the Governor-General is improper, or that we haven't had a proper Commonwealth since 1973 or the Australia Act. These are usually the type of arguments that the common law people promote. I disagree with their approach, Kelly, because I think to get a win in the courts, you need to work within the system. if you try and challenge the entire validity of the system, in my opinion, they're always going to throw you out. And from what I've seen, that's what they do. It may work temporarily with the common law approach, but that is just a temporary blip in the road before people's lost in the court, from what I've seen. If you think about it, if you're playing soccer and you go up to the referee and say, I don't like this game, it's an invalid game, you referee have no power here. The referee is not going to listen to you or respect you at all. He's going to tell you to probably get off the ground if you don't like the game. So if the common law people, advocates want change, I think they need to get change through the political process first, so that those issues they have, and there is some merit to some of the issues they raise, but they need to be changed. You can't change them in the court. We don't have that power as individual human beings to change the entire court system with one simple legal case. I think that change can be gained by working within the system, using the laws against them to find loopholes or different interpretations, so that you can beat them in the very game that you're playing. So you can play that soccer game, you can shoot with a left foot when they're expecting you to shoot with a right foot, you can score the goal and win some goals for freedom and your own liberty. So yeah, Kelly, I don't think that challenging the entire validity of the legal system is a good idea, but what would I know? I'm not a lawyer, and neither currently am I a doctor either.
And seems to be both is the better option. So both to not be a lawyer and to represent yourself, and to not be a doctor and do things that in your own good conscience. So well done to you. So tell us about the wins that you had, and what did you have to show them and prepare?
Yeah, well, one of the wins I had was in the Supreme Court, where the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was very shocked to hear that I was saying that the national law, that is the Health Practitioner Regulation national law, upon which all of APHRA's illegal gagging of the doctors, gagging of the nurses is based on, I was saying that it doesn't even exist as a law. And so she tried to find that law in open court. So it's all on the record, all on the transcript. And she couldn't actually find that law. It's true that it does not exist as a law. So that was a very significant win, because the more doctors, nurses, and indeed Australians realize that we are being controlled by laws that don't exist, then the quicker and easier we are going to get out of the tyranny that's facing this country. Other wins that I've had is that I discovered recently that the legal database that most lawyers use, that's called JADE, as in the gemstone or the crystal, jade.io, didn't even have Australia's constitution correctly on it, ever, it seems. So that was just, I brought that to their attention. That was corrected today, actually. So that shows to me how incompetently lawyers have been in reading the very laws. In fact, the most important law, that is the Constitution of Australia, in all their cases. For how many years, I don't know. So I've come along as a self-represented applicant, and I've found not only is there no national law that I'm supposed to be suspended under, but even the Constitution that all the lawyers are using is wrong. So it just is amazing how much is going past and beyond people's desks that isn't correct, isn't legal, and it just takes a person, I think, to question what is coming before them, and the possibility for wins in the courts is really, really possible. I'm very fortunate where I am now, which is in the High Court. I have an appeal going against my earlier loss in the High Court on the 7th of June, and I am confident that my decision will be overturned, and eventually I will be able to reclaim the right to freedom of speech and informed consent in this country, not because I'm any genius or anything, but simply because the High Court has already ruled many times in this country, Kelly, that we do have the right to freedom. We do have the right to democracy. We do have the right to informed consent. So all I'm asking the High Court to do is to revalidate those simple rules. And that's why I believe that APHRA will go down, because they are the ones who are breaking all those laws, not me.
The reason why most people don't fight things in the court is the court costs. Is that been a real challenge for you?
Well, it has only been a challenge in that if I lose, I'm going to get destroyed, because then you have to pay for all the lawyer and barrister fees of the other team. And when I'm fighting the Queensland government, APHRA, and the medical board, that's a lot of fees. But so if you're willing to take a risk, which I am, because I have good reason to, then you can win and you can not pay costs. And that is because if you're not paying a solicitor or a barrister like myself and self-representing, you're avoiding those legal costs, which is what actually takes up a lot of people's time and money and energy, and is a reason that people give up. Did you know that actually 99% of civil cases ends before the trial is even started? 99%. That shows how afraid both sides are of actually fighting in the court. So me, I'm not afraid at all because I've got no costs with my lawyers. And I believe that's going to help me beat these Goliaths of APHRA and the Medical Board in Queensland, because they're racking up costs every day and I'm not. And so that's, you can turn a disadvantage into your advantage. The other costs involved in fighting in the court is the filing fees and hearing fees. Now, if you are unemployed like myself, you can get substantial discounts. That's something a lot of people don't tell you, that you can apply for financial hardship fees in both the Supreme Court and the High Court. So look into that. And also there are lawyers that work pro bono a lot. And there's not just legal aid, but entire organizations devoted to helping you for free. So do a Google search for pro bono, PROBONO, and then some lawyers may willingly help you because it's part of their profession etiquette or legal standards, ethical standards, to help others for free, at least part of the time. So yeah, long story short, it can be disastrous financially if you lose, but if you're willing to have a go and something that you believe in, and you can either do it self-represented or pro bono, you'll avoid a lot of the costs, especially if you apply for financial hardship.
So most of us aren't going to try to go up against a giant like APHRA, but we might want to go to court to fight anything from speeding or, you know, traffic infringements or you know, land rights or all kinds of different things. So
yes,
what I do know though is that if you win and it was over a traffic infringement, then they still charge you. Can you get around that fee? Because there's a fee for if you win.
Yes, that's right. You're talking about the offender levy in Queensland. Anyway, it's about $132, $150 that you have to pay regardless of you win or lose in the court. So I don't think that's fair. I don't think that a defendant who is found not guilty should have to pay anything. But it is a current fact that is the case. I actually tried to fight a speeding fine myself recently, actually, because I'm not working and not allowed to work anywhere. Having to pay a speeding fine is excessively hard for me. So I just did an application in the Magistrates Court to have my fine changed from a monetary penalty to a community service penalty, which is my right and the magistrate's discretion under the law to do that. She doesn't have to give me a monetary penalty. And I presented a very good case, self-represented again, with different applications, legal forms that I downloaded from the Queensland Court's website. I had affidavits, evidence, and the magistrate said that, Dr. Bay, you presented such a wonderful case that I will not destroy you, basically, for trying to contest the Queensland government today. So she found me guilty and gave me the exact same fine plus that offender levy anyway. So I didn't win a single thing. But the reason I tell this story is to show that there is a high probability of losing, in my opinion, with the speeding fines, because you're directly threatening the revenue source of the government. And so whilst magistrates shouldn't be thinking about those matters, it's going to be very difficult to argue on those matters, especially with speeding. It's a scientific method of taking a photo, a camera, and having it recorded. So it's really hard to argue the facts on that. I wasn't even arguing the facts. I was just arguing my penalty, and still they wouldn't give it to me. So yeah, my experience with the speeding fines wasn't that great, but if you do get experience, you'll learn how to fight with other things. And probably we will all need to fight more, I think, in the future, because if we don't stand up for our human rights, whether it's freedom of speech, what goes into our bodies or our religious freedom or anything like that, we're just going to lose all these rights. So we do need community members to take action, to be self-reliant, because if we don't express our freedoms, we're going to have nothing but tyranny in this country.
I remember 20 years ago, I moved from New South Wales to Queensland and tried to fight a must have been a speeding ticket in Queensland, and I found it much more difficult in Queensland than I did in New South Wales.
Right,
so,
right.
Yes, having done
Yes.
it both ways. So I agree with you. So what are the tips then else that you have for people?
Yeah. So if you are looking at self-representing, I think that you need to start by always remembering that if you're getting advice from anybody, that they don't know everything, and perhaps they don't know anything. And that probably includes lawyers as well. You should double check everything. You should read things yourself. You should self-rely on your reading, your interpretation of the law and the case law. And it is available to everyone. Like that website I mentioned, jade.io, go on it, search things. You can find all the different case laws and statutes that may or may not affect your business or your person or your family or your friends. And when it comes to interpreting those laws, what you need to understand is that the High Court is the ultimate authority on interpreting laws in this country. It's not what your friends may say or even the magistrate may say. It's what the High Court says. So always try to look to High Court case law as your authority for understanding the law that's you're dealing with. Another tip that I would have is to understand the definitions, the terms that are being applied to you when you're looking at the law. In most statutes, that is laws passed by the Parliament, there is a section on definitions. So you need to have a read of those definitions and understand the definitions as they apply to you. Another thing that you need to look at is the purpose of the Act. So usually it's around Section 3 of the Act, it's the objectives of the Act. You need to understand why Parliament created the Act, that is the statute, that is the law, so you can interpret the law correctly. Because in many cases, even though governments may use a law against you, if they're not using it in a way that was the purpose of that law, you can argue against that. So it's important to know the purpose of the Act that befalls you. Then once you are ready to look at the meat and potatoes of what actually is your situation, you need to look up the specific section that you are charged under or that you are wishing to sue somebody under, and understand that section completely. A lot of people stop there, but what I found in my experience with the Supreme Court and the High Court is that you need to read around the section well. So, for example, if you're reading Section 72 of the Constitution, you should read Section 71 and Section 73, and wherever those sections take you, they may have reference to other sections. So that's a very, very, very important thing that I would encourage everybody to do. Even if you are engaging a solicitor or a lawyer, you need to educate yourself. Just like in medicine, we always understood that if the patient was involved in their healthcare, then there will always be a better outcome in that situation. You should never leave healthcare purely up to the doctor or the nurse or the surgeon. You need to get involved. That will always lead to better outcomes. Same for the law. You should get involved. You should know the law, and that means knowing the section that you are dealing with and the sections around it. And the other tips that I would have is that every step of the way that you engage yourself in the law, whether it's an email to the other team or an email to the judge, appearing at a directions hearing or a second hearing or at a cost hearing, every step is an opportunity for you to persuade the court. Every email, every appearance, everything you say is about persuading that judge that you are right and your opponent is wrong. How do you do that? By showing you know your case, by knowing your law, by researching things, and then speaking confidently and truthfully on those matters. I think that if you're doing that, you stand a good chance at getting a good outcome in your matter. And if you don't, the benefit of self-representing is that at least you gave yourself a go, you stood up for yourself, and you saved costs on lawyers. One disadvantage of engaging a lawyer is, apart from their fee, that their duty primarily is to the court system. Their number one duty is to follow the courts, to follow the law. In America, it's different. In the United States of America, their number one duty is to serve you, the customer, the client. That's a very big distinction that we have here in Australia. So only you have your best interests at heart, and that is why self-representation may be something that you may want to look into if you wish to engage yourself in a legal matter.
They are some very good tips. Now, I do have some more questions, but I just wanted to open up to the floor. If there's any questions that anyone wants to ask. And you covered off a lot of things there. So I hope everyone has been taking notes, and
I've been taking notes furiously. It's been
Michael,
really
do you have
good.
any questions? Because I know you've been dealing with things in the courts.
Yeah, I've been in and out of courts, mostly with fighting with police over very minor infringements. And I don't know if it's more of a question or a statement, but I really liked you breaking down self-representing yourself within the system, or the common law route, or getting a lawyer, like those three distinctions. I've been going so much more the common law route, but I noticed how you gave that example of dealing with a speeding fine, self-representing, but within the system, and then it doesn't work because that's how they make their money, right? But I think that would be a good case for me, where I've seen multiple examples of the common law thing work for that, because then it rubbishes the system and they just want to get you out of there. And what you actually want is the case to be dismissed. But obviously with your APHRA thing, that's not the case. But I guess it's like looking at the issue you're having and going, okay, which one of these is going to work best? That really helps me, because there's other cases I'm thinking where I may want to sue a police officer, which I do want to do, which I would probably do within the system, self-represented, and just dot my I's, cross my T's, and learn all that. Whereas previously, before hearing you speak, I was thinking of going the common law route, but I guess I'll stick to that for like speeding fines and things. That's how
I think if you're doing a matter where you are attacking a key member of the system, that is the police officer, that is perhaps one of the situations where you most want to play by the rules, so to speak. It's going to be, sort of edgy or controversial what you're doing anyway. Not that I'm saying it's wrong anyway. I'm going to be suing the police myself very soon, actually, as well. And so, so I think if you go in there challenging the entire validity of the system, it's a way that would lead to a defeat quickly, in my opinion, because you're already up against so much anyway, all the resources of the police officer or the Queensland Police. So you want to make it easy for yourself, I think. And so working within the system, in my opinion, can be a good approach. We'll see how my matter goes, and hopefully you'll have some good luck there yourself.
Thanks very much. And good luck to you too.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for sharing that and your experiences. So do you have somewhere where, we can find out more about your experiences in the court, rather than go on Google, which kind of brings up all the courier mail version, which, I don't know how accurate those things are, but
well, I do have a website, Queensland People's Protest, so that's qpp.life, LIF for freedom E, and then /legal, qpp.life/legal. I've posted all my Supreme and High Court documents there, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, well referenced to many relevant cases for political freedoms, freedom of speech, case law, informed consent, COVID, and healthcare case law. So I think even just reading something like that, in my opinion, is helpful for people, because a lot of people don't normally get to read these type of things, but I've provided them there for everybody to have a read, and it's all free and you can have a read. So it's a good way to self-educate. Also, we have some videos on my website on that qpp.life. And if you go to any of my social media, like Billy Bay on Facebook or Dr. Billy Bay on Twitter, You'll see several of my interviews like we're doing this evening. So they're all around the place. And I talk about my legal matters often, but to see the actual nuts and bolts of the things I've submitted, then yeah, I would have a look at qpp.life/legal. And then if you're really keen, what you can do is go to the High Court. You can create an account for free on their DLS registry. It's an online system. And then I think it's about $29 per hour. You get access to everybody's documents, including mine, everybody's. You can go read through everybody's, and you can start to really understand how cases work, what works and what doesn't. Look, you may end up more educated than like the Queensland government. For example, they didn't even know how to file in the High Court, and I did, but not because I'm an expert, just simply by trial and error. By going there a few times over the last year, I now know how to do it. Whereas even they, because they only work within the Queensland system usually, suddenly they're in the High Court system, and they floundered and flopped and ended up filing 3 days late in my most recent appeal. So yeah, never doubt the value of the human brain. You can learn a lot. Go in there, check things out, check my stuff out, and you may be surprised what you find.
You know what, though, I think what it comes back to what you said in the beginning is that when you are doing it yourself, you get to use your intuition, and God works through you to be able to say what you need to say, and to, you know, be able to have that strength to find the information that you want to need to find. So I think there's added power in that, because, you know, if you have that relationship, you can call on that power.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's been, I think, the greatest element for me, because it's a game. This lawfare is like a chess game, and you've got to think several moves ahead. And there are many strategic twists and turns and ways that you can go. So how do you choose whether to do this or to do that? Yeah, for me, there was a lot of Christian prayer involved in choosing the right path, and it's worked really well for me. And I wouldn't have been there without him.
Yeah, power to you. Anyone else want to ask a question? I don't have any necessarily coming through the chat, but I have a lot of people really appreciating what you're saying right now, and getting that, you know, that you are fighting the good fight on behalf of all of us. Yeah, thank you. We is there someone is Linda is fighting a charge in court for pretend exercising. Wow. Yeah. Being out and about during lockdown, hey?
Yeah, on the 8th of the 8th, 2021. And yeah, so we decided to fight it. And so basically just tell the truth. You know, we did go to exercise. There was a couple of us, and that's all we can do is tell the truth. And hopefully, you know, like you say, a higher power might get us through it.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear of that, Linda. Nobody, in my opinion, should be in trouble in any way, shape, or form for exercising. That is absolutely not criminal, and nothing wrong with that. And it's entirely an abhorrent situation that any government would think that they could get anybody in trouble for doing such a thing. That's outrageous. So you've said you've got truth and God on your side, which is great. But always remember that facts or truth are just half of the law. The other half is the law. So you need to, in my opinion, although not legal advice, familiarize yourself with the law, with exactly the laws and statutes that they're using against you. Have a look at it critically, think about it, see if it really applies to you, see if it can be interpreted in different ways. Because whilst the truth is the truth, that's great. You need to also work within their system and show to them why, even though those facts are correct, they do not apply to you or does not apply to the situation, and why this law is not applicable to your situation.
Yeah, they I had something to say then, I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, that's true too. That's right, yeah. So they've got to prove that we weren't exercising, and we were exercising because they actually had us had rigged up a camera across the road, some shops, and they had filmed us, so we were exercising. And now they're trying to get us on as we paused, and we did have a bit of a chat, for a few minutes, but
Yeah.
mainly the whole time we were exercising. So they've just got to prove that we weren't.
Okay, and so as a criminal matter, that means they would have to be proving beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah. Mm.
Yep. So therefore, a person in such a situation would be tasked with the goal of casting doubt in the adjudicator's mind. And if you can cast an element of doubt, then you should win your matter. And if you don't win your matter and you think you were right in your matter, always remember that the game doesn't stop there. Often people think that if you lose in the magistrate's court, it's all over, but no. If there are good grounds for what you believe in and you think an error has been made, always remember that you can appeal to the district court, and if not then the Supreme Court, and if not then the Court of Appeal in Queensland, and if not then the High Court as well. So there are many avenues available to fight if you have the guts, the determination, and the resources.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we did decide we'd go to the district court if we were convicted. So
yes, very good luck, Linda. Great luck for you.
Thank you. Yeah, good luck to you too.
Thank you.
Linda, can I just ask, were you charged individually, or is the matter being heard as a group? How are they working?
Yeah, individually, and there were two people that wouldn't, two ladies wouldn't show their ID, so they were arrested and taken to the police station, put in a cell, and then three of us showed our license. Oh, showed licenses. I showed a common law card that a common law sheriff had helped us, make. So I showed that, and it's proper ID. It had my name, photo, everything on there. It's just it was a common law one, and so they accepted that. And then, one of the ladies went home. There were three of us left, and one lady went home, and then a guy and I just kept doing Tai Chi, and they left us there for about an hour doing Tai Chi. So they didn't tell us to go home or you're not supposed to be here or whatever. It was a bit of a setup and say that we're protesting. So anyway, so that's where we are at the moment.
Yeah, Linda, what your story illuminates another way that you can increase your chances of being successful in court, and that is as a self-represented person in a situation that is outrageous, you should get a lot of sympathy from the public and the media as well. So I have used my case where I do have sympathy because I'm not allowed to work, I've done nothing wrong, and I'm just sticking up for informed consent to put pressure on my opponents in this matter because they know they're wrong. And the police probably know they're wrong in fining you for exercising as well. So the secret is lawyers and barristers, they can't usually go out to the media and make statements about your case. It's not within their rules. As a self-represented applicant, you can go to your local newspaper or radio show or this broadcast or TNT radio and start opening your mouth and getting your story out there. And a lot of these organizations don't like publicity. So use that against them is a strategy that you may want to consider, and that is getting publicity for your case.
That's a great strategy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great, Linda. We can't play nice. We have to play smart.
It is a game. It is a war. It is a game, and you have to win. And if you're not in there to win it in the court, then get out because you will lose. So you've got to get in there with a sort of an aggressive attitude. But aggressive doesn't mean rude. Aggressive means standing up for your rights and doing everything possible to legally win.
I know. I'm very confident, like as in being able to stand up there. We did a little bit of homework because I've never had a fine, like I had a couple of, speeding fines in my life, but not only a couple, but never been in trouble with the police. And so it was daunting to do something wrong, or feel as if you're doing something wrong. So, but anyway, we've gone to a few court cases to get the confidence and to see, how the enemy works. We'll call them the enemy, like to get confident and feel what it's like to be in a courtroom and see what other people are doing. So we did our homework, and so I was quite confident. So we've been to court about 3 times now, and it's adjourned to February.
And again, Linda, you've mentioned a fantastic thing that people can learn from you about. Yes, people should go to courts and watch how court cases are run. Absolutely. You learn the mannerisms, you learn the language that you need to say, you learn the clothing that you need to wear, and you can see what wins and loses cases. That's a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah, and know thy enemy, really. It's and the magistrate, we noticed that he was quite fair to people, especially if you were respectful. And that's what you got to be. And we can do that anyway. We'll be respectful to a shop person, or a receptionist or whatever. So that's all you got to be, is respectful.
Yeah. And why do you need to be anything else when you're not a criminal, when you've done nothing wrong? So you are standing in your truth and human rights and hundreds and hundreds of years of legal precedent that state that humans have the right to move about freely in a democracy. So you will win.
The prosecutor asked myself and another lady if we would, because we got so far in our life, I'm in my 60s now, so far in my life without a criminal record. I mean, wouldn't most people? And he said that, that so maybe we should plead guilty. And I said, but why? Why would I do that when I'm not guilty? And he said, oh, well, you don't want a criminal record. I said, I'm not guilty, so I'm not going to plead guilty.
Yeah, you bring up another good issue in that many prosecutors and solicitors even will encourage you to plead guilty. Remember what I said before, 99% of civil matters don't even get to the trial. So in many situations, your opponent is actually relying on you to give up, because they've got 12 cases or 24 cases to do. They can't afford to be fighting everyone all the time. So if you show an unusual amount of determination or tenacity, just the mere act of resistance may be enough to give you victory. So I think that people in this country have been encouraged to take deals, to plead guilty far too often. When I was arrested for exercising a freedom of speech outside APHRA's office on the 23rd of May this year, the Queensland Police put excessive pressure on me to plead guilty for the entire 24 hours that I was in the Roma Street watch house. Right to the very end, they said that I've done the wrong thing and I've ruined it for myself. Now I'm going to get an extended sentence and all this type of BS. And when I went into the magistrate's court, the magistrate did not even let the prosecutor speak. That's how disgusted he was with the bullying of the Queensland Police and the prosecutor. So he didn't even allow them to demand their outrageous request to me to never return to the CBD of Brisbane again. So that just showed me that if you do stand up and don't back down, maybe you just can win.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, a lot of scare tactics they use on you, don't they? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what it all was. Fear, 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 take the deal, give in, submit, you'll be okay. But you know what? If you give in and submit, then you lose. Then you're not okay. You're suddenly having to pay a fine or face a jail term for something that you, if you think you haven't done, then you haven't done. So I don't personally like the idea of pleading guilty to something I know I'm not guilty of.
Yeah, they said that our court costs, and I don't know if this is individually or, as a group, they will divide it or whatever, but it's over $11,000 now, apparently, but I'm not even going to think about that because, otherwise you go, oh, no, I can't afford that. And
That's right. Yeah. Doubt and fear are your two big enemies. I faced that myself in the High Court. I was facing hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal fees, still am. And look, if I start thinking about that tonight, I want to run away as well. So if you make a decision to fight, you've got to put the fear to one side. It's like charging onto a 14th century battle with William Wallace, and then you got the barbarians running against, or the British running against you. You've got to put the possibility of death to one side and swing that axe mightily. So swing that axe, Linda, and win.
Is that $11,000? Is that just only if you lose? Is that kind of just dangling that there? Do they tell you that, William, when you're going for court, this is going to cost you, and is they using that as part of your fear tactic?
The magistrate and the judges will never say that, because they can't. They're there to be an impartial adjudicator. But the other team, yeah, they'll say that to you a lot. Because they want you to give in, right? And yeah, sure, people do end up with a lot of expenses sometimes. But if you are worried about that, then you should have made that decision at the start. Is my point. Yeah. But if you're willing to take a risk for something that you believe in, or that you think you have a good chance in, then you should probably see it through. Is my opinion.
Yeah. Very good advice. And I know there's a lot of small cases that they will throw out, and they will see reason and understand that at that time they charged people and for all kinds of things that are unlawful, and those things can get thrown out if you stand up for them. A lot of people don't think that they can, and then they pay for it, and then they deal with it that way. But I like everything that you've said tonight, William. And I don't know if there's any other questions that anyone wants to ask.
I was just going to say quickly to Linda that all of the COVID mandates every single one has been dropped, and even has been publicly stated that any fines for those will be reversed. So, I mean, it's going to be the easiest case you've ever had. You can find the documentation that shows that none of those were legitimate and now can all be reversed anyway. So there's so many things on your side. Just find the public documents that show that, and it should be dismissed immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were back in I can't remember, July, or they were waiting to hear if they were going to drop the court. So they've dropped all the fines and given people back their fines that they paid, the money back, but they haven't dropped the court ones. So I'm not really sure about that, what the story is, but
because they are hoping for people to still be charged. So you have to go forward and say, hey, this has been dropped, but there's so many people that will be scared and pay the money anyway, and they're just hungry for the money. That's all that's happening there. It's like all these things are not being stated publicly, but they're there, and you just need to find the documents, and then they'll go running scared.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Oh, well, this has been very enlightening, and I love this angle of this that we haven't looked at before, of self-reliance in the courts. And so thank you. Now, I do have one more question, because you did talk about this and your background. So now, as putting on your doctor hat, since all of the scandemic and pandemic has come out, and now you look back over your doctor training, what do you want to say about, because there's a very similar process that people educate through the lawyer system and the doctor system to come out with this, this is how we should do medicine, in this country. So yeah, what have you noticed then about that?
What I think the scandemic has shown us is that we must access as many different sources of information as possible and make an informed decision on what is the best treatment and prevention of disease in the first place. We cannot rely on single points of authority, whether that's a chiropractor or a doctor or a naturopath. It doesn't matter. You need to be the master of your own health, because it's you who is going to suffer when things go wrong. I've seen too many patients injured from a vaccine or injured from a medication or injured from a surgery or injured from a strange procedure, and nobody's there. None of those practitioners are there to help them. So you've got to protect yourself first is my number one rule. That's how I came to freedom. That's how I came to God, even actually, by making the decision to not have the vaccines for the protection of my own body, and thus remaining as a healthy human being for the earning capacity and the healthiness of my family. And it just grew from there. Once I started choosing to love myself first, which I thought was selfish, turns out it's actually just smart. It really helped me to open my eyes about how everybody should be living, which is taking care of their themselves first, and then when you're healthy, you can start taking care of others.
Beautiful. Do you know many other doctors who have taken the path that you have?
There aren't many doctors at all, unfortunately, because fear is the virus. That is what has went around everywhere, and people have still got it, especially 99% of my colleagues. There are great doctors like Dr. Marley Trin and Paul Oosterhouse and others who have been fighting, but our numbers are few, less than 30 for sure. So that is why I'm fighting in the court to destroy APHRA's legal authority. So all of the medical professions, all the health professions can be free of the tyranny of APHRA, and they can start helping people healing from the COVID injuries and all diseases, actually, because APHRA has now not just confined itself to telling health professionals what they can and can't do regarding COVID. They're now telling all health professionals what they can and can't say and do with all manner of things. So if you're a naturopath, a massage therapist, a dentist, anybody that's got anything to do with health, even health education, they're coming for you. And so you must fight back. You must defend your right to the doctor-patient or the client-healer relationship, because they're coming for your power, your money, your role. It's all on the line now. We are in a spiritual and a medical war, but we will win just by standing strong, fighting back, and using the gifts God gave us. So this new offence, that is the amendment to the Criminal Code, Serious Vilification and Hate Crimes and Other Legislation, Amendment Bill 2023, regarding giving offence to people in a public place. A public place is defined under Clause 3 as any form of communication to the public, including by speaking, writing, printing, displaying notices, broadcasting, telecasting, screening, or playing of tapes or other recorded material, or by electronic means, and any conduct that is observable by the public, including actions, gestures, and the wearing or display of clothing, signs, flags, emblems, or insignia. So everything, basically, everything. That's why I'm protesting strongly against this criminal code bill, because it's worse than the APHRA disinformation bill. This covers all forms of public discourse, whether online or offline. And that is why we must stop this bill, because it affects all Australians. It criminalizes free speech, and that's why we must stop it.
How long do we have before they pass that?
Well, yeah. So it's only it's past the committee stage in Queensland, and it's next due to be read. That is discussed in the Parliament of Queensland on between the 22nd to the 24th of August of this year. So the organisation that I lead, Queensland People's Protest, will be having a protest outside of Queensland Parliament House on the 23rd of August at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I encourage all Queenslanders, or in fact any Australian that doesn't want to go to jail for freedom of speech, to come to Brisbane on the 23rd of August for that protest.
Can I get you to send me something so that we can post it in the chat? And because I'm not aware of that one.
Yes, I know that they do try to sneak things through, and that's why, as part of the work I'm doing with the Queensland People's Protest, and as a freedom activist, is bringing people's attention to these things, because half the battle is just getting people aware of these things. So I've texted you through, Kelly, that protest details, and those protest details are available on the QPP website. Again, we have a page, an events page, qpp.life/events.
Let's all jump on that. You've got some good things going on that website. And
Indeed.
yeah. Oh, wow, there you go. That was
yeah, that's what I'm saying. The need for self-representation is coming far quicker than people realize, I think.
Yes, and it looks like you know, if we all did that, we could actually make a better dent, you know.
Yeah. So if many people are fighting these charges, whether they're proved guilty or otherwise, just the mere volume of people fighting in the courts will just almost force the government to have to change the law, I think. So that's why they're always encouraging people to plead guilty, because if people would actually fight for their rights, things would have to change in this country, and change dramatically, and change for the better.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Oh, well, we were just about to close up and we had to hear that.
It is important, yes.
Thank you so much. Linda, did you have your hand up? Did you want to say something?
I was going to say, like, I mean, obviously there'll be thousands and hundreds of thousands, hopefully, people speaking out. How are they going to arrest everyone and put them in jail? Is this where the FEMA camps come in? And
well, unfortunately, what the COVID scamdemic has shown us is that you make the example of a few people like yourself, Linda, and most of Australians fall into line. So no, I don't think they will need to arrest or fine thousands and thousands of people. They'll only need to arrest and fine maybe 20 or 25, and then which Aussie is going to give up their job, their career, their livelihood, their reputation, their criminal record to fight, to stand up for the free speech bill? There'll be some, and I hope there's all of us. But the COVID scandemic showed that most people just want to live a quiet life, and I get that. I want to live a quiet life too, but we're now being backed into a corner where if we don't not have a quiet life and we fight for our rights politically and legally, we're going to lose everything. So I hope that I'm wrong, that a lot of people will fight, but the experience the last few years shows that governments will scare people and then most of us will back down.
Well, no, it's been really great advice tonight. Thank you. And you got to stir the fire in the belly a little bit too, don't you? To get a little bit uncomfortable to say, I need to make more of effort and sacrifice that quiet life for the good of all.
Yes. Freedom must come before security and safety, because it's the fertilizer in the soil of safety. If you don't have the freedom to express yourself, everything else, whether it's safety, comfort, your home, your job, it's all lost. That's why even the High Court has ruled that freedom of speech is the bedrock of Australia's democracy, and it's true.
And how do you need help? How can people help you in the fight?
Yes, I do need help, and any help would be appreciated, because I can't work, and I'm working on this for Australians to have their medical freedom returned to them. So any donations to cover my living costs for my family, myself, and any legal fees that I incur would be greatly appreciated. And if you would like to help me, please go to qpp.life/donate. That's QPPLIFE/donate.
Okay, I put in the chat live instead of life. So
yes,
qpp.life.
Yeah.
And then you'll find the donations page there.
Absolutely. Yeah. We also have fundraisers from time to time. I'm doing a Bitcoin educational on the 7th of August. Next week, I've got a fundraiser dinner with Dylan Oakley and Dr. Miley Trin in Sydney at the end of this month on the 25th, I think. And we've got my 1-year protest anniversary on the 16th of August at 192 N Street. So come along, exercise your feet and your mouth for freedom, and we will win. Yes,
that's awesome. Okay, so just say that last one again. In Sydney, it's on the 16th of August. All around
Australia is the 16th of August. That's right. But the Sydney one is at a different time. That is the 26th of August in Sydney at the Green Gate Hotel.
Beautiful. Well, that's all the ways that you have educated and enlightened us, and then all the ways that we can help you and support you in your good fight. So it's been marvelous having this conversation tonight. Thank you so, so much. Thank you for everything that you are doing, and then for being here with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Not a problem at all, Kelly, and good luck with everybody on their paths for self-care.
Lovely. We'll hope to see you in Sydney at those events. All right.
Great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. We'll see you here next Tuesday. We'll be back with another amazing speaker, and all those information will be in our Telegram chat, the My Self Reliance Telegram. We'll see you then.
Bye for now.